So what are the pros and cons of living in the countryside? Well, I've got 3 pros and cons that Brian and I are to bring to you, and one that might surprise you. It's kind of a bonus if you stick around to the end. But number 1 is peace and quiet. I completely enjoy the peace and quiet, except for the sound of the birds and the animals rustling around. I get to stargaze at night and actually see the stars. To me, that is so valuable, and that is one of the pros that I find of living in the countryside. And I tell you what, number 2 pro for me is definitely having the ability to live your own lifestyle and be self-sufficient. So here I'm in my garden, and this is something that I have just loved establishing. I mean, I'm growing tomatoes, I'm growing sage, rosemary, I've got spaghetti squash over there, cucumbers over here, peppers, and this is gonna be so much fun when the harvest comes in, and I'm gonna know exactly where my food came from, and it gives me a hobby every day to come out here and just trim it up and water it and watch it grow. Not only is it the gardening that I love, but it's also having your own livestock. So we have hens, and we're able to have that out here in the countryside. And we go out every morning, and yes, almost every single morning, and have our fresh eggs. I love boiled, hard-boiled, I love them soft-boiled, I love them scrambled, and of course there's always baking that goes along with that, so that's awesome too. Another great thing about being self-sufficient, which I didn't think about the other day, but when my dryer went out and I had no means to dry it, I thought, oh my gosh, what did Grandma do? Grandma put clothes on a line. So I had my laundry line put up, and for 2 weeks I was drying all of my laundry on the line. And let me tell you, there is nothing that smells better than a fresh, dried sheet in the sun. When you're going down to sleep at night, that pillow smells so good. So I love the self-sufficiency aspect of countryside living. He's hiding in there. Like 3 days ago, it was this small. Just keep growing, buddy. Now, number 3 pro for me is internet and technology is less out here in the country. At least for me it is. And I tell you that because there's always so much to do when you're living on property. As a matter of fact, there's so much you sometimes never get to finish it, which may become a con. But I enjoy my evenings instead of watching TV, which quite frankly there's nothing really good on all those channels. I just sit out back and watch the storms roll in. I watch the deer go to their evening spot. I watch, I don't know, just everything that happens. I call it God's TV outside, and it's so much more interesting and engaging for me than watching somebody else play a role on TV. So for me, that's it. But there is one coming, the bonus one I want you to stick around for that you might be surprised about. So time is not necessarily on your side when you live in the country, because when stuff goes wrong, it needs to be fixed right away because there are consequences if you don't. For example, I don't want my horses getting out. So there you have it. That was kind of a surprise to me because living in the country on acreage versus living in a beautiful gated community, this has actually cost more.
A couple of the cons in living out in the countryside is there's definitely an element of isolation. And so if you're used to the big city and you're used to the limelight and all the excitement of a big town or big city, you're definitely not going to get that out here. But what we find is that that's exactly why most people move out to the countryside, because they've hit a certain, I guess I want to say a range or a point in their life where they decided, I've had enough, and now I want to be able to take my life and make some adjustments, a better quality of life for a lot of people. All right, so number 2, the con is being self-sufficient. And it's okay, but there are some downsides. And some of those downsides could be, I'm not really a great handyman. And so we've got a hose here that when Diane's feeding the garden, the hose leaks like crazy. So I went out to the plumber, to our Ace Hardware, and I picked up this piece right here. And the guy, he explained how it works. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna probably end up calling a plumber just because this not really is in my skill set. But as far as being self-sufficient, when you're on a farm, you usually learn how to do a lot of things that you're not used to doing. Anywhere from like fence repairs that Diane was just talking about, to plumbing where things are leaking. And the big thing is that you want to do this before the winter sets in. You don't want leaky pipes during the winter. And con number 3 about living in the countryside is, you can see that Starlink dish up there. Starlink works really amazing for where we live, but you think about 10 years ago, we really didn't have any internet out here. I mean, almost none. And so having the internet out here has allowed Diane and I to actually run our real estate business from home, which is awesome. So that was a con, but now that con has been taken care of with a great guy by the name of Elon Musk and Starlink. So if you're living out in a rural country and you're like, have little to no internet, there are some restrictions as far as that dish goes. And what I mean by that is, if there's too many trees around the property, you may have problem getting service, okay? But at the end of the day, there's a Starlink app that you can download to your device. And that app will actually allow you to take a scan of the sky, and it'll actually tell you what your percentage is of having great internet service. So it's a brilliant, brilliant feature. So thanks for joining us on this video today. Feel free to subscribe to our channel. As you know, many of you know, Diane and I, we've been selling real estate here in the Northern Virginia countryside for more than 20 years. And if you have any other real estate questions that we can answer, feel free to give us a shout out or send us a comment, and we'll talk to you next time.